Chase Hockey with a Blue Futon, and I'm reviewing the Forrest Gump Indian remake called Laal Singh Chaddha. I butchered it so bad! I am a bad person. I did buy Rosetta Stone, and I'm trying to learn a different language. I truly am, and I'm sorry for butchering it, but I'm white. I'm too white to pronounce the names. I'm sorry. So pretty simple. This is a Forrest Gump remake based in India. And this has got to be a daunting task for the screenplay and the director saying, oh my God, we are taking this iconic film that won the Oscar for Best Picture, I think Best Screenplay, and I think Best Actor in 1994. Even though not Red Flag, but Asterisk, that was probably the best year for movies. That, Pulp Fiction, Shawshank Redemption, bonkers, and Forrest Gump still won, even though I think Shawshank Redemption was the better film that year. But anyway, Forrest Gump is still a great film. I own one of the Dr. Pepper bottles signed by Tom Hanks in my living room. Pretty sweet. But did I like this film? This film did enough right to, pay homage to Forrest Gump, and it did enough right to make it its own film. And I applaud it for that because it could have gone off the rails, but it decided to keep that cute message through in and throughout, and changing some of the American history with Indian history. So with that, I'll give the positives of the movie first. I think the acting was extremely well done by everyone. Even though there's one nitpick with the main actor playing this character, he did a little niche in it, which I didn't like, but we'll continue. That'll be talked about in the negatives, but let's talk about this. I enjoyed the story, how it decided to ramp it up to today's day and age, because they could have easily done the whole Vietnam War era of Forrest Gump, but no, they decided to make it more the 90s and 2000s with terrorist attacks that happened in India. And I think one of them was about the terrorist attack that happened with that movie called Major, but I could be completely wrong. Also, they did some nice character changes with Lieutenant Dan. I was thinking, what were they going to do with that character? But they did it with the Muhammad character of Forrest Gump. I'm saying law, basically saving Muhammad, who's a bad guy. And that friendship actually occurred with, instead of doing a shrimp, it was undergarments, making tank tops and underwear. So changing that was actually pretty smart. It put a little bit more character development into Lieutenant Dan being in the army for the good guys. If you want to call it, the same regiment in the army. But this is more, him saving someone that was on the opposite team. So adding that different dynamic was very fun and very unique, because I was wondering, where's the Lieutenant Dan character coming from? Is it going to be that lieutenant that's calling him a genius? Like I said, there was enough homage to it. There's a small ping pong scene, which, thank you. The gun scene, calling him a genius. So there are just enough fun scenes where you're like, yep, that's from the movie, and the running scene. So all the main parts they decided to keep, but they did decide to change some of the history aspect for the story. And I think they did a little bit less for the Jenny character, because I think in the original Forrest Gump, Jenny character was a lot more of a villain and a lot more mean to Forrest Gump. Here, it was a little bit more tame, which I understand why they wanted to do that, but I feel like Jenny being more of a villain put more just oomph into the story, just in my opinion. But his story looked great. It was good CGI, except for one thing, and I'll talk about that when I get to the negatives. The acting was good. The cinematography was good. Oh my God, that bird on the back, where is that? Because if I ever visit India, I want to see that statue. That was a gorgeous shot where he was running around that bird. Oh my God. I had to pause, and I'm like, who made that? That is fantastically gorgeous. And it's so cool, because it doesn't matter what part of the world you go to, China, India, Europe, Germany, Austria, probably Australia, United States, South America, Brazil, Canada, there's going to be random spots where you're just driving or you're on a train, and you're like, oh my God, what is that? A castle, a big part of yarn, just random stuff where you're just like, I didn't know this existed. And it's so cool that it's in the world, and watching these type of movies, you see that, and it's so cool. But with that, we will go into negatives, and I have 3 main negatives for this film. Like I said, the main actor kind of did this, a lot through this story. I don't remember Tom Hanks doing that with Forrest Gump. Maybe I'd do a rewatch, but it felt like it was a little bit too much in this film. So every time he spoke, he did it, and I was just like, okay, I understand that you want to say that he's kind of slow, but doing it that much, I was like, okay, time out. Give him a little bit of breathing room to be a little bit normal. Because we know, yeah, we all know he's kind of slow and like that. So I understand, but it was just like, okay, can we have a little bit toned down? Also, the very beginning with the feather CGI wasn't good. I feel like if they did a little bit less with the feather, I think it would have been a little bit better. But I understand what they're trying to do is follow the story of the train station, which is fun and all. But some scenes where like the fan and the bike, it was very like, didn't look that good. And I understand, it's all good and gravy. And then finally, the last one I'm gonna say I didn't like, but I wish it was more commercialized when it comes to the story of everything happening in India. Like, I know the whole part of like the war-torn things and, malaria, that connection, like, wanted to not let Lar know what was really happening. I did want to know what was happening with the turban. I think I understood that of the whole, religion aspect of cutting the hair and what was happening in that part of India at that time. But I still wish some of the stuff that they were talking about, like I said, I know it's India, and this is probably a very nitpick for someone in the West to complain about this. Guilty, guilty, guilty. So you can complain in the comments. I don't care. But some of the stuff, I wish it was, like I said, a little bit more commercial of like, okay, I know what happened there. I know that Indian history. Like, there is some Indian history I do know about just doing research. But with this movie, I did have to go to Google and be like, okay, what happened in 1994? Okay, what happened at this part? Okay, what happened here? Because I was like, what made that, like, the boiling pot of, like, explosion into killing random people in the street, putting them on fire, cutting the hair, or the assassination attempt and stuff like that. So, not knowing that, I could call it a fault, but it's kind of guilty for me to not call it a fault because it really shouldn't be. And when they opened the REPA, Jenny is now REPA, REPA. They opened the factory June 15th. That's my birthday, not in 2016 or like 2006 when they opened the factory. I'm a little older than that. But hey, June 15th, that was my birthday. So when I saw that, I was like, hey, I got to give a plus to that. But overall, Lar, a.k.a. Forrest Gump remake, does it completely right, in my opinion. It keeps the core of the movie. It keeps the monumental moments that everyone knows about, the running scene of, running like miles for 4 years. Him in college being a fast runner, the bullies, the war scene. But it does enough to do its own for the Indian culture. So that is a plus for me. But it does do enough for the Western audience to like. And it does tell the audience, like, yeah, I'm a little bummed that I don't know anything about this. But then you gotta be like, yeah, maybe I should just Google and stop being lazy and being force-fed to me. So maybe that isn't a negative. So Lar, a.k.a. Forrest Gump remake, will receive a 4 out of 5 Blue Futons, which equals at 80%. So see the Critics News scores gave this one. So critics a 65% with 34 of them, audience score and 91% with over 100. Here's critic consensus. It's indebted to its source material to a point of creative poverty. But Laal Singh Chaddha is also such an admirable retelling that is difficult to dislike. Completely agree. Audience, Laal puts Forrest Gump in a fresh cultural context, and Aamir Khan is terrific in his lead role. I have to agree, except for the little, like, it's hard to say what else it is, but, this director's only done 2 films. Laal and Secret Superstar. Fascinating that this person who only has 1 before this one had to do this film. So that is very impressive that someone gave him, the creative liberties to do it. Good job. So 65, or was it 66? I turned off my phone. Sorry. 91 and my 80. Chase off with the Blue Futon. Like, comment, subscribe. Let me know what you think is Blue Futonopia. You Blue Futons. Thank you for watching. A fantastic day. Like I said, it must have been a daunting task, and I think it did enough right for anyone to enjoy this film.